Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about Disney Pixar's movie Soul. I have some thoughts and I thought I would give my unsolicited 2 cents. Yes, the movie has been out for a month. I'm a little bit late there. So on Christmas Day, I think Disney Pixar released their new movie Soul, starring Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey, and it follows Joe Gardner, a black middle school band teacher, and he has this dream of being a jazz musician. In the first 3 minutes of the movie, he gets a promotion to full-time. You get a backstory that his mom really wants him to take this full-time position because it has benefits, it has insurance, it has a pension plan, it has a salary. Joe doesn't want that. He wants to chase the gig life. One of his old students reaches out to him. He has an audition with this lady. He goes to the audition and he aces it, and then literally within 2 minutes of the audition scene finishing, the audition scene that is in the first 10 minutes of the movie, Joe dies. I say dies in quotations because the movie kind of plays around with it. So Joe falls into the sinkhole and his soul goes into the great beyond, which is where your soul goes before you die. But then within the great beyond, there's the great before, where newborn souls are groomed to be good souls before they go down into earth and occupy the body of something living. This movie is literally about the afterlife, and it's targeted toward kids, so take with that what you will. This movie gives extreme Inside Out vibes, which is not a coincidence. I'm gonna get into that in a second. 22, Tina Fey's character, is a baby blob. Oh, unborn soul, that's what she's called. Anyway, she has all these mentors and she cannot for the life of her get this earth patch, and the earth patch is to signify that this is the last patch she needs on her little Girl Scout uniform, I guess, to be eligible to go to earth. Joe is helping her find that. However, 22 has no desire to be on earth, which she's not wrong. She's not wrong, but that's not the point of the movie. Joe has lots of desire to be on Earth. So what does he do? They come up with this plan that, hey, I'm going to help you get your Earth badge. You're going to get the Earth badge. You're just going to give it to me and I'm going to jump down into my body. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that. They switch places. Joe is now a cat and 22 is now Joe. Was I surprised? Absolutely not. We've seen Disney and Pixar do this a lot of times. We've got Spies in Disguise, Brother Bear, Princess and the Frog, Q Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, and Mushu from Mulan. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is usually when Disney and Pixar want black people or people of color in their films, they're animals for all or most of the film. Before I even get into my opinions on that, let's just talk about the chronology of this movie, because this context is also very important. Remember when I said that this movie gives major Inside Out vibes? That's because Inside Out was the inspo for this movie. Inside Out came out in I think 2015 or 2016. Around there is when this movie started to be developed. You cannot talk about Pixar without mentioning Peter Docter. He is the director. The director. Peter Docter did Up, Monsters, Inc., Toy Story 4, Onward, Inside Out, and a bunch of other short films. I took notes. That's why I looked down. Peter took Inside Out and was like, we've got some loose strings. It doesn't feel complete. So Soul was born because he wanted to focus on personalities. The idea of the Soul movie is that your personality comes from your soul. In the original draft, first, second draft, Earth was not a thing. The story took 100% place in the great beyond. But the writers came together and was like, for us to drive home the idea that life is really worth living, we should probably send the character down to Earth. Now that they've added Earth to the plot, they needed a earthly and human character. And that is when the character of Joe is born. Alright, so my battery died. I put Joe in quotations because Joe wasn't Joe at this time. Dana Murray, a producer for the movie, in a New York Times article says that they settled on jazz music because they were playing around with like different passions that Joe could have had, and they landed on music. And when they did music, they were like, okay, what's a genre of music that people do just out of the pure love for their heart because there's like no money involved? And because they chose jazz music, they made Joe black. The PR nightmare it would have been had Joe not been black but played jazz music. At this point, Pixar comes to the conclusion that maybe an all-white production team shouldn't be spearheading a movie that is now centered around a black character. So they hire a middle-aged black man to be the co-director, and hence Kemp Powers is brought onto the project. Kemp Powers is now the co-director as well as Pixar's first black director. Oh, but Pixar does not stop there. Nay, 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 nay. Pixar rallies the troops and creates this Culture Trust team. The Culture Trust team that Pixar puts together, honestly, from my research, seems to be pretty impressive. Obviously, I wasn't in the group. There's not like transcripts of what they talked about. This Culture Trust group is made up of black employees at Pixar. They hire Janetta Cole, I think is her name. Yes, who used to work at the Smithsonian and got her PhD from like Northwestern in anthropology. She's on this team too. And this culture group literally sits together and just talks about Joe's story and how it can evolve and be the most authentic. And also, this culture group allegedly played a pretty big part in like the creation of Joe. To preface, Dr. Janetta Cole's role in this Culture Trust group was basically to make sure that nothing offensive got put into this movie. Pixar's VP of Inclusion, Britta Wilson, also worked on this Culture Trust team, and she really made an effort to make sure that it was cross-generational with the people that were actually on the team, to make sure that the movie could be received well by people in all different generations, obviously. So again, with this culture group, they honestly seem to really cross their T's and dot their I's, and for that, I'll give them a gold star. The fact that I keep bringing up that Joe is black is because Pixar brings up the fact that Joe is black, and multiple people on their creative team has said that Joe being black is essential to the story. If you're one of those people that are going to sit here and be like, oh my god, why are you harping on the fact that Joe is black? Pixar is harping on the fact that Joe is black. Pixar has made it very apparent that it is important that Joe is black, and that was a very intentional choice that they made. A little late, they made the choice. Okay, so now that we've got all that stuff out of the way, what do I think of this movie? I like it. I think this movie, aesthetically, this movie is beautiful. I was able to find pictures of like the storyboards. Those are also just immaculate. I think there are things that this movie does extremely well. I wasn't planning on going on this tangent now, but I might as well. The barbershop scene is my favorite scene. I think, one, again, it's beautiful. The details that Pixar put into that scene were so spot on. I think it does a really good job at capturing black culture, because the barbershop for a lot of black men is a safe space. Again, aesthetically beautiful, but I also think the script writing for that scene is so great, and it's also a huge turning point in the movie. I don't want to say huge turning point in the movie, but it definitely is a scene where Joe has this realization within himself about his relationship with other people. He's literally having an out-of-body experience. He's watching himself interact with people, but it's not him, it's 22. But to the criticism of this being a white savior movie, I think I'm gonna have to go with no on that one, and I'm going to tell you why. One, I don't see 22 as a savior. She doesn't save anybody. Two, the saviorism that does happen, like, yes, I understand the argument that it is Joe helping 22 find her purpose and find her spark, whatever. But Joe puts himself in this predicament because he's the one who ultimately devises this plan for him to help 22 to get the patch so she can give it to him and he can go back down to Earth. This whole ordeal is like more or less orchestrated by Joe. The project that Joe takes on that is helping 22 get her Earth patch is entirely selfish on his part because he's literally the only person that benefits from it. Now I'm actually going to be critical of this movie. So, remember how I said the barbershop scene was one of my favorite scenes? Yeah, I'm about to criticize it. But before I get there, there's this scene where 22 says very explicitly that she can change her voice into anything she wants because Joe makes this joke about her sounding like a middle-aged white woman. Now, as I mentioned before, the barbershop is a pivotal scene for the movie, and I think it is a very big, like, display of Black culture. So why did Joe not sound like Joe? Why did we keep Tina Fey as the predominant voice actress for that scene? That scene should have been 100% Joe's because that is such a, in my mind, an important scene to the film. It is something that starts this domino effect on Joe's character development. That scene needed to be attributed 100% to Joe for the culture. However, on the flip side, which is why I'm actually quite confused about this, Pixar writers, if you're watching this, please leave a comment as to why you decided to do it this way. And the scene where Joe has the argument with his mom when he says, "Jazz is my reason for living, and I don't care about the money, Mom." That scene is voiced by Jamie Foxx. Why was the barbershop scene not also voiced by Jamie Foxx? Why was Tina Fey the voice of Joe for so many scenes? I definitely think for some of these scenes, Jamie Foxx should have been the voice of Joe, just to bring more depth to Joe's character, because while you do see a lot of Joe's character, it's largely through 22 living in his body. The cat. I wish Jamie Foxx would have been able to voice the human more than the cat. There are also scenes that I feel like Pixar cut short. For example, the scene where Constance comes to his apartment for her music lesson and she's like, "I quit." Like, where was Joe? Where was Joe? But like, Joe has no reaction. He just says, "She loves jazz." There should have been more dialogue there. I guess the part that just really baffles me is like, does nobody else hear 22's voice? Like, does Joe sound like Joe to other people? That's not clear to me. Does Joe sound like Joe to the people that he's talking to and we just hear 22's voice? Or do they also hear 22's voice? I'm inclined to think that no one else in the, like, real world outside of this, like, great beyond real world warp thing understands, because no characters like ever mentioned like, "Hey Joe, your voice sounds weird." I don't know. But that scene was a really big turning point for 22 because then she realizes, hey, maybe living on Earth doesn't suck. When I watched this movie, I watched this movie twice, and I asked myself both times, multiple times, does Joe have to be Black? If Pixar wanted to go the route of having a human character on Earth that's passionate about music, they could have picked just like a violinist and could have had the same effect, but they were very intentional in making it jazz and making Joe Black. Could this story be told about a white violinist? Yes, it could have had the same effect, which is why I like it. Because I think when it comes to like increasing diversity in Hollywood, not only just in like the actors and the talent, but also within the storylines, I hate movies where like the protagonist is a person of color or is Black and their personality trait for the whole movie is their minority status. I hate that. I think it's overplayed. I also think it pigeonholes actors. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. That is how we promote diversity in storylines, is by having storylines with diverse characters that have nothing to do with their race or minority status. Now, would Joe have been black if they would have chosen a violinist? Maybe. Probably not. They really stuck to the plot and the message of the film, of it being about passion and it essentially being about music and jazz. You can't offer a critique on this movie without addressing the Tina Fey situation. So, she also has this problematic past where episodes from her show 30 Rock were pulled from the internet because of blackface. And so that really did not sit well with people when this movie came out. Tina Fey voicing 22 is without a doubt part of the reason why this film has gotten a lot of the backlash about it being a white savior movie. This blackface happened not in 2020. No, this happened like 30 Rock was on air from like 2006 to 2013. Like, this is pretty deep in Tina's past. Why do we need to use the same people in Hollywood? The same actors, the same actresses on my screen time after time. And Disney has an issue of reusing talent. I'm sick of seeing the same people. 22's character isn't a character where you have like this specific voice in mind. I genuinely feel like she could have been voiced by anyone, whereas Joe, you kind of have to have a specific voice to sort of fit his personality because he's a literal person. But 22 is not a person. You literally could have picked any other voice actor. Could have also done another black voice actor if you really wanted this to be a like black movie, but I digress. Let's talk numbers. All right, so when I was watching and researching for this video, I was like, this culture trust group, all of these diversity efforts that Pixar put into this film, what was the budget? And how does it compare to other movies that Pixar has released that we all know and love? So, compared to its other movie peers, this is where Soul ranks on the budget totem pole. All right, the budget for Soul was $150 million. The budget for Up was $175 million. Toy Story 4, $200 million. Incredibles 2, $200 million. So, what does this tell me? That making a culturally accurate and culturally aware and diverse movie comes at no extra cost. No extra cost. If anything, it's less. Let's just attribute the $25 million less dollars that it took to make Soul, and let's just chalk that up to COVID. I honestly think COVID would make making a movie more expensive, but let's just give the benefit of the doubt. That means it costs no extra money to include minorities in the stories. It's possible, and it's cost effective. It's just as cost effective as every other storyline. So why is it taking us until now to do it? But like I said, I love the movie, the animation. Have I talked about the animation? I think I've talked about the animation. Let me talk about the animation again. It's beautiful. They did a lot of unique things. The way that they made Terry, who is like 2D, like go between 2 and 3D, the way she slithers through the city, I thought was really cool. Now, the actual content of the movie. So this movie makes a very, very apparent point that purpose and spark are not the same thing. And that is the part that got me, because let me tell you, I was shook. I was shook and I was unhappy when they said that, because I wasn't expecting that. I bring this up because there's this concept in the movie that I absolutely love, and it's the zone in Lost Souls. So this is my theory. Slightly a conspiracy theory, but this is my theory. When you're in the zone, anything that you're doing that you are just completely consumed in and you are just on cloud 9, you're in the zone. Lost souls are people who are living, the souls of living people who are just consumed by something else that makes them distant from reality. So these are your anxieties, your obsessions, things like that. I knew from the beginning that 22 was going to end up being a lost soul because she is just obviously depressed. I don't know if she's depressed, but she has no interest in like living. 22 says she likes her life in the great before. She likes that she can wake up and do the same thing every day. She knows what to expect. There's no changes. It's very monotonous. She goes down to earth. She lives her life, Joe's life. She gets her badge, and she becomes a lost soul at the end of the movie. Towards the end of the movie, at least. She becomes a lost soul. We knew this was going to happen. Literally, she's having an identity crisis. You can't take someone who spends their whole premature, unofficial life hating Earth and the concept of living. You put them on Earth, the place they didn't want to go, doing the thing they didn't want to do, which is living. And sooner or later, they're going to have an identity crisis. Yeah, whatever. Joe helps her get out of that spot, and it's not, you know, again, we knew that was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. Joe gets 22 out of her lost soul space, and lo and behold, he gets a second shot at life. We knew that was going to happen. Literally, if you didn't see it coming, that's your fault. What does Joe end up doing with his new life? I don't know. We don't know, because the movie ends. He says, I'm going to live every moment of it. And then basically the movie ends. Maybe we'll get a short film on it. Is this a white savior movie? No. Does this movie have issues? Yes. Are the issues present in this movie surprising? Absolutely not. Do I recommend this movie? Yes, tenfold. Let's do some awards. So, my favorite lead of this movie goes to none other than Joe. 22 is just annoying. Favorite supporting lead goes to Moonwind. The hippie guy that, like, flips the sign and, like, finds the weak spots in Earth. Yeah, we like him. My favorite cameo performance, the barber. You knew that was coming. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like, comment. If you want to hear my unsolicited opinion on some other things, therefore making my opinion solicited, leave a comment. Bye!